Did you know that almost a quarter of the world's freshwater species are like right on the verge of extinction?
Yeah,
It's,
it's
it's pretty wild.
it's a scary thought.
Yeah, and you think about all the endangered animals you hear about, like tigers and elephants and things,
Right.
but you never really think about what's going on like under the water.
Yeah, under the surface.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be diving into today.
Absolutely.
We have this study that was recently published in Nature that looked at over 23,000 freshwater animals across the globe,
Wow.
and they found over 4,000 of them are considered highly threatened.
And that's not just numbers.
Yeah.
We're talking about all kinds of creatures like fish and crabs and shrimps and dragonflies,
Yep. Like
damselflies.
all these things that play super important roles in their ecosystems.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's kind of zoom in on one specific region that was hit really hard, the Western Ghats here in India.
Oh, yeah.
Um, the study found that 41% of the freshwater species in this like biodiversity hotspot
Wow.
are facing extinction.
That's huge.
Yeah, so we're talking 124 out of 301 species.
That's a significant number.
Yeah.
And the Western Ghats is considered like one of the world's 8 hottest hotspots
Right?
for biodiversity, but that doesn't mean everything's protected there.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of work to do there.
Yeah.
So the study brought up some interesting examples like the humpbacked mahseer, this giant fish found only in the Kaveri River.
Oh, wow.
This thing could grow up to like 60 kilograms.
That's massive.
Huge, right? But its population has dropped by over 90% in the last 3 decades.
Wow, in just 30 years.
Crazy.
That's a really short amount of time.
Yeah, it's like it makes you realize that even these large, abundant creatures are still really vulnerable.
Absolutely. And, we always talk about the tigers and elephants, but
Right.
all these other creatures need help too.
Yeah, it's like a whole other world that we don't even think about.
Right.
The study also highlighted some species that have really, really limited ranges. So they're very susceptible to like any kind of change in their habitats.
Oh. Right. If one little thing goes wrong,
Yeah,
that's it for them.
exactly.
Yeah.
So for example, like the peninsular hill trout,
Okay.
it's only found in the Periyar River.
So if something happens to that river.
Exactly. They're gone. And then there's the Divario nilgiriensis. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
That's good.
Which is an endangered species only found in the streams of the Nilgiri Hills.
Wow. So specific.
Super specific.
Yeah.
Um, so we've got all these species facing all these threats. What are some of the main driving forces behind this freshwater extinction crisis?
Well, the study pointed to pollution as the biggest one.
Really?
Yeah, impacting over half the threatened species.
And we're not just talking like industrial pollution,
No,
right?
no, no. This is like agricultural runoff sewage, even like pharmaceutical waste
Yeah.
that's getting in the water and harming all these animals.
So it's really like everything.
Everything.
And then obviously there's like dams and water extraction projects.
Right, completely changing how the rivers work.
Yeah, disrupting like everything, the breeding, the feeding, the migration.
All the natural processes.
And then on top of that, you have agriculture and land use changes.
Yeah, deforestation can really make things worse with erosion and all that sediment.
Right, so the water quality just keeps getting worse.
Exactly, it all adds up.
And then you throw in climate change,
Oh, yeah.
which is messing with water temperatures and rainfall and causing crazy droughts and floods.
It's a lot for these species to handle.
It really is. It's like a perfect storm.
Absolutely.
So we've got all these threats all over the world, and specifically in the Western Ghats. What are some of the issues that are like unique to that area?
Well, one of the big ones is non-native species.
Okay.
Things like the African catfish, common carp, tilapia, they were brought in for like aquaculture to look pretty,
Right.
but now they're taking over.
And they're pushing out the native fish.
Exactly. It's disrupting the whole balance of the ecosystem.
It's like we try to do something good,
Right.
and then it backfires.
Exactly. Unintended consequences.
Yeah, and this is especially bad for those species with limited ranges, like we were talking about before.
Right. They're already vulnerable, and then they have to compete with these new guys.
It's tough out there.
It is.
So we've got this global crisis and this really intense situation in the Western Ghats, but like beyond the environmental impact, how does this affect us?
Oh, millions of people rely on these freshwater ecosystems.
Right, for food and water.
Exactly. It's not just about fishing either. These species play a huge role in keeping the whole system healthy,
Hmm.
nutrient cycling, water purification, even seed dispersal.
So it's like a chain reaction.
Yeah, one thing affects another.
If we lose these species, we lose all those benefits.
And that can hurt people's livelihoods and even whole economies.
So it's not just an environmental problem, it's a human problem.
Exactly, we're all connected.
Yeah, and that brings up a really important question, like what happens when these species start to disappear? What happens to the planet? What happens to us? What happens to these ecosystems long term?
That's the question we need to be asking. It's a big one.
Yeah.
And there's a lot at stake.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's like you start taking out these key species and the whole food web can fall apart.
Right, like the predators lose their prey, and then maybe they decline, and then the things lower down in the food chain just explode.
Yeah, it creates all these imbalances.
Yeah, and it just ripples out from there.
And we can't forget about the people, you know?
Right, like what about the communities that rely on these fisheries for food and income?
Exactly what happens when those fish disappear. I mean, we're talking potential food shortages, economic hardship, maybe even social unrest.
Wow. Yeah, it's really scary to think about.
And this is a big deal for anyone studying for the UPSC exams, too.
All right.
This kind of stuff touches on so many different areas like ecology, biodiversity, sustainable development, even governance.
So it's not just about memorizing a bunch of facts about fish.
No, it's about understanding these big connections, how the environment affects people and how people affect the environment.
Right, like it's all one big system.
Exactly.
So it's like a domino effect.
Yeah, one thing leads to another.
And we have to act fast before it's too late.
Absolutely. We need to start finding solutions.
Okay, so what can we do to protect these freshwater ecosystems and all the species that live in them?
Well, the study talked about a multi-pronged approach.
Okay, so like attacking it from all sides.
Exactly. We need to reduce pollution from everywhere, farms, factories, sewage treatment plants.
Right.
And then we need to manage our water better. Think about how we're using it and make sure there's enough for everyone, including the animals.
Okay.
And then, of course, we have to deal with these invasive species.
Right, those guys are trouble.
Yeah, we need to find ways to control them or even get rid of them.
But that sounds like a lot of work.
It is. It's a huge challenge, but it's not impossible.
So how do we even start?
Well, it takes everyone working together, governments, industries, communities, individuals. We all have a role to play.
It's like a team effort.
Exactly.
And are there any like specific projects or initiatives that are already happening?
Yeah, there are a bunch of cool things going on, like setting up protected areas, restoring damaged habitats, promoting sustainable fishing practices.
That's great.
Yeah, and citizen science is becoming a big thing too.
What's that?
It's basically getting regular people involved in monitoring these ecosystems, collecting data, helping with restoration.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great way to get everyone engaged.
It's like we need to wake up and realize that these freshwater ecosystems aren't just some pretty thing to look at. They're crucial for us.
Exactly. They're essential for our survival.
And that's a message we need to spread far and wide.
Absolutely. We need to change the way we think about nature. It's not something separate from us. We're a part of it.
Right, like we depend on it.
Exactly, and it depends on us.
And for our listeners who are prepping for the UPSC exams, this is like gold.
Oh, yeah.
Being able to
Kinda.
understand all these complex issues, the ecology, the socioeconomic factors, the potential solutions, that's what's going to make you stand out.
Absolutely. Imagine being in that interview and they ask you to analyze different conservation strategies or come up with policy recommendations.
Right.
If you can talk about all this stuff you've learned.
You're golden.
Exactly. It shows you're not just memorizing facts, you're thinking critically about these issues.
And it's not just for the environment section, right?
No. This stuff can come up in essays, discussions, all sorts of topics, sustainable development, international relations.
So it's really valuable knowledge.
It is.
So whether you're a nature lover or a UPSC aspirant, this freshwater extinction crisis is something we all need to pay attention to.
Absolutely. It's a chance to learn about this amazing underwater world and to understand the challenges we're facing.
And to hopefully be inspired to take action.
Exactly. We can all make a difference.
Awesome. So I guess the big question now is what happens next?
Well, that's up to us.
Right.
We have the power to change the course of this crisis.
And what can we do?
We can start by getting informed, learn as much as you can about these issues, and then share that knowledge with others. Talk to your friends and family, write to your elected officials, get involved in your community,
Right.
and then make changes in your own life, reduce your water use, Choose sustainable products, support organizations that are working to protect these ecosystems.
So it's about making informed choices.
Exactly. Every little bit
Yeah,
helps.
like that saying, think globally, act locally.
Exactly.
All right, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today,
We have.
but this is just the beginning of the conversation.
Absolutely. There's so much more to learn and explore.
So keep diving deep, stay curious, and most importantly, stay hopeful.
I like that stay hopeful.
Yeah, because we need that hope to fuel our action.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today.
It was my pleasure. Yeah, it really makes you think about the bigger picture, doesn't it?
It does. It's like all these things are connected.
Exactly. We can't just focus on one little piece of the puzzle. We have to see the whole thing.
Right. And for those of you getting ready for the UPSC exams, that's like the key takeaway.
Yeah, being able to connect the dots between all these different issues.
Exactly. Like understanding how the environment affects the economy and how politics plays a role and all that.
That's what's going to make you a strong candidate.
Yeah, you got to show them you can think critically and analyze these complex situations.
And that you care about finding solutions.
Right. It's not just about knowing the facts, it's about understanding the whole picture.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the freshwater extinction crisis, what's like the one big message you want our listeners to remember?
That's a good question. I guess I would say the fate of these freshwater species is totally tied to our own fate.
Like we're in this together.
Exactly. Protecting these ecosystems isn't just about saving some fish or bugs. It's about safeguarding our own well-being, our economies, the future of the planet.
Wow, that's powerful stuff.
It is, and it's something we all need to take seriously.
Yeah, and I think that's a good reminder for all of us. Knowledge is power. The more we learn about these issues, the more we can do to make a difference.
Absolutely, and don't underestimate the power of individual action. Even small changes can add up.
Like what kind of things?
Well, reducing your water usage, choosing sustainable products, supporting conservation organizations, those are all good places to start.
So it's about being mindful of our choices.
Exactly. Every little bit counts.
Awesome. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have. It's been a great discussion.
But this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to learn and explore.
Absolutely. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep taking action.
Right. Because the future of our freshwater ecosystems and our own future depends on it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, so for all you UPSC aspirants out there, keep diving deep into these important topics. Your knowledge and understanding can help create a better future, and for everyone else. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the freshwater extinction crisis. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more fascinating deep dives into the world around us. We'll see you next time.